Today's lesson is Legends in Lava, the role of volcanoes in mythology. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're going to continue talking about legends that are based on volcanoes or legends that come from volcanoes or that have to do with volcanoes. And these are legends in lava. Lava, of course, is the liquid rock that comes out of a volcano, which I believe happened many years ago, many thousands of years ago here in Taiwan. I think Yangmingshan actually erupted at one point and the lava flowed down the north face of the mountain and ended up in Laomei, where you can go see some lava formations there now. So volcanoes can erupt from time to time.
But I'm not sure if there are any myths or legends surrounding the volcano here in Taiwan, though there are many myths and legends surrounding volcanoes in other parts of the world. In the last lesson, we saw a legend about Mount Etna, which is located in Sicily, even though the myth that we looked at was a Greek myth. And we also looked at a Hawaiian myth regarding the volcano there and how the legend involved a love triangle.
It's kind of interesting stories. I like these stories, and we've got a couple more in today's lesson. We're going to be going to Mexico to talk about a myth of the Aztecs, and then we're going to go to New Zealand and talk about a volcanic myth from the Maori people there. So these are pretty interesting stories as well. Let's listen to the first one about Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl.
The Aztec myth of Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl offers a timeless tale of love and sacrifice. According to legend, Popocatépetl, a brave warrior, fell in love with Iztaccíhuatl, a beautiful princess. After Popocatépetl was sent off to battle, false news of his death reached Iztaccíhuatl, causing her to die of grief. Upon his return, the heartbroken Popocatépetl refused to leave her grave. Touched by their love, the gods turned them both into volcanoes, and some say that the volcano Popocatépetl's occasional eruptions are due to the pain that still burns deep in Popocatépetl's heart.
大家好，首先看到第一部分，我们来介绍名词 sacrifice， 它的意思是牺牲、舍弃或是献祭。例如 Mothers make a lot of sacrifices to give their children good lives. 妈妈们为了让小孩有好的生活而做出很多牺牲。又或者说 Before any important activity, the ancient Greeks would offer a sacrifice to their gods. 在重要的活动之前，古希腊人会向神们献祭。另外，这个字也可以作为动词使用。举例来说 John sacrificed his trip to stay home and take care of his sister. John 牺牲他的旅行，待在家里照顾妹妹。再举一个例子 The doctor told Sue that she would have to sacrifice sweets for her health. 医生告诉 Sue 说，为了她的健康，她必须舍弃甜食。再来，我们看到名词 warrior， 这个字尤其是指旧时的战士、武士或是勇士。例如 Maori warriors had tattoos over most of their faces and bodies. 毛利族战士的脸上和身上布满刺青。或是 Ancient warriors used to fight for their land and their honor. 古代的战士过去经常为土地和荣耀而战。接下来我们看到形容词 occasional， 它的意思是偶尔的或是见货的。例如 My uncle likes to go on the occasional fishing trip. 我叔叔喜欢偶尔去钓鱼。又或者说I usually don't eat sweets, but I'll have an occasional slice of cake. 我通常不吃甜食，但偶尔会吃片蛋糕。另外补充这个字的相关名词 occasion, O-C-C-A-S-I-O-N, occasion. 它的意思是场合、重大活动或是盛典。例如 We've met each other on several occasions. 我们曾在几个场合遇过彼此。又或者说Peter dressed up in a suit because it was a special occasion. Peter 穿着西装，因为这是一个特别的场合。
The Aztec myth of Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl offers a timeless tale of love and sacrifice. So we know that this is a story about a princess and a warrior. Now, the warrior is Popocatépetl, and a warrior is an ancient fighter, an ancient soldier. So when we're looking at ancient times, like in ancient Greece or ancient Rome, they didn't really have soldiers in the modern sense. They had warriors. So warriors were fighters who fought for an emperor or for a general leader. And the story also involves a princess, and the princess's name is Iztaccíhuatl.
Okay, and of course the Aztecs were people who lived in central Mexico before the Spaniards came. And we've got their myth involving Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl. And that's a timeless tale of love and sacrifice. Sacrifice is about giving up something that is dear to you for a greater cause. And you might make sacrifices for your children, for example, by working a job that you don't really like, but you still need to make enough money to send your kids to school and things like that. Or you need to do a lot of housework or whatever. You're making a sacrifice for your children. But again, this is a timeless tale that can be told at any time and still be valid. It's all about love and sacrifice. And according to the legend, Popocatépetl, a brave warrior, fell in love with Iztaccíhuatl, a beautiful princess. And after Popocatépetl was sent off to battle, false news of his death reached Iztaccíhuatl, causing her to die of grief. So because he's a warrior, he was sent off to battle. He was sent off to fight for his country. But then some false news came back, and it was false news about his death that reached Iztaccíhuatl. Death, of course, here refers to the fact that Popocatépetl was killed in battle. At least that was the news, but it was false news. And still, she thought it was true, so it caused her to die of grief. Grief is just extreme sadness.
Yes, people talk about grief or grieving when somebody that's beloved dies. So the word grief means sadness, but it's often associated with death. Now, upon his return, the heartbroken Popocatépetl refused to leave her grave. Touched by their love, the gods turned them both into volcanoes, and some say that the volcano Popocatépetl occasional eruptions are due to the pain that still burns deep in Popocatépetl heart.
Right, so again, this is a story of sacrifice. I guess he's making a sacrifice for his girlfriend there by not leaving her grave. And the gods were touched by their love. If you're touched by something, that means you are emotionally affected by it. The gods looked at this and they thought, what a great guy, Popocatépetl. What a wonderful woman is Iztaccíhuatl for having such devotion to her warrior boyfriend after he went off to battle. And so they are dedicated to each other, and that really impressed the gods. They were touched by their love, so the gods decided to turn them both into volcanoes. A volcano, of course, is a mountain that spews ash and lava and smoke and things like that. And some say that the volcano Popocatépetl's occasional eruptions are due to the pain that still burns deep in Popocatépetl's heart. So, yes, indeed, every once in a while, the volcano does erupt. I think I saw in the news recently that there was a small eruption of Popocatépetl fairly recently. There was a bunch of smoke coming out from that volcano. So maybe that's due to the pain that still burns deep in his heart. If something's occasional, it happens once in a while, maybe about 10% of the time.
Right, so the eruptions don't happen very often. They're occasional eruptions. They happen every now and then. And locals who see the eruption or hear about it might be thinking back to the myth and thinking Popocatépetl's heart is still breaking and he is still in pain due to what happened. So due to here means because, as a result of something else.
Kind of interesting because these two mountains and this volcano are not too far away from Mexico City. And if Popocatépetl were to erupt, it might cause damage to parts of Mexico City, just like Taipei City would be in real trouble if Yangmingshan decided to erupt, but I believe they're not expecting it to erupt anytime soon. So this is interesting. It's a story about these two mountains in Mexico, especially about Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move across the Pacific Ocean now and go to New Zealand and talk about a myth involving volcanoes from the Maori people.
In Maori mythology, when Rangi, the Sky Father, and Papa, the Earth Mother, were separated, Rangi's tears fell upon the land. To stop his weeping, their sons flipped Papa upside down so that Rangi could no longer see Papa's sorrow. The baby, Ruaumoko, still at his mother's breast, was thus carried into the underworld, where his movements now trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions.
第二部分我们看到动词 flip， 它的意思是使快速翻转、迅速翻动，或是用拇指来弹或是直。例如 The diver flipped backwards before entering the water. 那名跳水选手后空翻入水。又或者说 You should flip that egg over before it burns. 你应该趁蛋焦掉之前翻面。
In Maori mythology, when Rangi, the Sky Father, and Papa, the Earth Mother, were separated, Rangi's tears fell upon the land. So in the mythology of the Maori people of New Zealand, Rangi was the Sky Father and Papa was the Earth Mother. So the male figure, the father, was represented by the sky and the female figure represented by the earth, which is very often the case with these mythologies. The earth is always female. When these two were separated, Rangi was so sad that his tears fell upon the land.
Interesting. It's also kind of confusing here because the word papa in English usually refers to the father. In this particular case, though, papa is referring to the earth mother. And again, we've got the sky father and the earth mother, and they were separated. So Rangi was quite upset about that. His tears fell upon the land. Remember, Rangi is the sky father, so he's up in the sky there. And if he's sad, of course, his tears are going to fall upon the land, or they're going to fall on the land. Of course, as you know, rain falls from the sky.
To stop his weeping, their sons flipped Papa upside down so that Rangi could no longer see Papa's sorrow. So the sons of Rangi flipped Papa. To flip means to turn upside down or to turn in a different direction. And what the sons did was to flip their mother, Papa, upside down so that Rangi, the father, could no longer see Papa's sorrow. Now, flip, as I mentioned, is to turn upside down. You can also use this word to say that you're turning upside down a pancake. You flip a pancake, or you can flip a coin if you want to make a decision based on chance. You can say, do I want to buy an ice cream? I shouldn't have an ice cream because I'm on a diet. Oh, let me flip a coin. If it's heads, I'll buy the ice cream. If it's tail, then I won't buy it.
Okay, so we've got Papa, the earth mother, on the ground, and the sons of these two people decided to turn her upside down, and then Rangi in the sky could no longer see Papa's sorrow. So I'm imagining that Rangi could now see the backside of Papa's head, but he could not see her face. He could not see how sad she was. That seems like a pretty good idea, although it might be difficult for Papa to breathe if she's been turned upside down with her face now facing the ground. Hopefully she'll be able to breathe. And the baby, Ruaumoko, still at his mother's breast, was thus carried into the underworld, where his movements now trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. So here, Earth Mother has a baby, and the baby's name is Ruaumoko, and this baby is still at his mother's breast. Of course, mothers breastfeed their children. It's the best way to give them nutrients when they're young. And he was thus, as a result of this turning upside down, was carried into the underworld. And now this baby is underground, and if he's moving around a little bit, that's going to trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. So if this happens in New Zealand, you know exactly why it's happening.
So here we have a different type of story that explains the reason why volcanoes erupt. In the other stories, we saw that the reason had to do with heartache or some kind of emotional outburst. Here it's the movement of a baby. So it's kind of cute. It's a cute story, very innocent.
Yes, babies move all the time, of course. When they're hungry, they kind of kick their legs around and they cry and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting how those movements could be applied to volcanoes. It's a very interesting explanation for the phenomenon of volcanoes. Okay, let's wrap things up now by listening to the third and final part, and then we've got a discussion started for today. Stay tuned.
Volcanoes have captivated peoples worldwide for millennia, making them enduring symbols of passion, creation, and destruction. From the story of Hephaestus to the tale of baby Ruaumoko, volcanoes have inspired some of humankind's most memorable myths.
最后第三部分，我们看到形容词 memorable， 这个字的意思是难忘的或是值得纪念的。例如 We had a memorable time visiting the Grand Canyon. 我们参观大峡谷，留下难忘的回忆。或是 Meeting his favorite musician was a memorable occasion for Ted. 对 Ted 来说，见到他最喜爱的音乐家是个难忘的时刻。
Volcanoes have captivated peoples worldwide for millennia, making them enduring symbols of passion, creation, and destruction. So, indeed, volcanoes have captivated people. In other words, volcanoes have fascinated people or attracted their attention. It's not just people from one place, it's peoples worldwide. So here, even though people is usually a non-count noun, it's being used as a count noun here because it's implied that we're talking about groups of people. So the Maori, Hawaiian, indigenous people, and also the ancient Greeks, these are all groups of people, and they're spread across the world. So we're talking about peoples worldwide.
Yeah, we could talk about the peoples of Taiwan. We could talk about the Chinese, Hakka, Taiwanese, Amis, Bunong, Rukai, etc. Those are all the different peoples of Taiwan. And we're talking about these stories captivating peoples all over the world. And if something captivates you, it attracts your attention. It's really cool to look at. The woman's beauty captivated the audience. And in this particular case, these stories have been interesting to people all over the world. That's what worldwide means, all over the world. And millennia just refers to thousands of years. And because these volcanoes have captivated peoples all over the world for thousands of years, this has made them enduring symbols of passion, creation, and destruction. So yes, a lot of people, a lot of different people all over the world interpret volcanoes in different ways. They're symbols of passion, like they are love stories. They're also symbols of creation, how things get made. And they're also symbols of destruction. Of course, they probably had to learn the hard way when volcanoes erupt. Sometimes they do so violently, and you get a lot of hot lava flowing down the side of the mountain, destroying villages and killing lots of people in the process.
From the story of Hephaestus to the tale of baby Ruaumoko, volcanoes have inspired some of humankind's most memorable myths. So it is true that all of these stories surrounding volcanoes have gone into making up humankind's most memorable myths. Something that's memorable is easy to remember because it's very interesting, it's very special. And these myths are memorable, they're very special because they tell about how volcanoes originated and why volcanoes erupt, and that makes them memorable.
Indeed, and we're probably just scratching the surface here because there are volcanoes all over the world, and they all probably have their own myths and legends associated with them. That brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有写到，根据传说，勇敢的战士波波卡特佩特爱上了美丽的公主伊斯塔西瓦特尔。那文中它是用 according to the legend 来表达根据传说。那这边我们就来整理一下片语介系词 according to 的不同意思。好，那第一个呢就是文中的用法，那可以表达根据什么所说，依照什么什么所记载。那么后面可以接人或是事物，用来说明来源或出处。举例来说 According to the article, teenagers should get 9 to 10 hours of sleep per night. 根据那篇文章，青少年每晚需要9到10个小时的睡眠。好，那第二个我们可以用 according to 去表达依照什么什么，依照什么的指示。那后面常常就会接规则啊、说明等等。例如 Ian put the toy together according to the directions on the box. Ian 按照盒子上的说明把玩具组装起来。好，第三个呢，我们可以用 according to 去表达取决于什么，根据什么而定。后面常常就会接某一种分类的标准，像是 She reorganized her closet according to color. 她根据颜色重新整理了她的衣柜。好，另外课文它还用到 fall in love with somebody 去表达爱上某人。那 fall in love 就是相爱、坠入情网的意思。相反的fall out of love 就是指不再喜爱了，那后面同样可以接 with somebody 去表达不爱某人了。好，那我们这边也顺便帮同学们补充几个跟恋爱啊、迷恋相关的用法。第一个用法叫做 fall head over heels in love with somebody. 这可以表达彻底爱上某人，深深的爱上某人。其中的 head over heels 是表达彻头彻尾、完全地或是深深地。好，那第二个补充的是 fall for somebody， 这表示迷恋、倾心于某人。那这个 fall for 它其实是源自于鱼看到鱼饵的动作，那引申的意思就是迷恋或是被骗哦。当这个受词是人，那 fall for somebody 就是爱上某人。可是如果当受词是事物， fall for something 则是表达被某事物所欺骗了。好，第三个补充的是 lose one's heart to somebody， 把心都给别人了，意思就是倾心于某人，爱上某人。好，再来看到第四个是 have a crush on somebody， 是表达迷恋啊、喜欢某人。这通常是指对某人短暂而强烈的喜爱。像我以前国中的时候，曾经在某段期间很喜欢别班一个男生，常常注意他会不会从教室外面走过去。可是这种迷恋呢，只维持了几个月。那这时候我就可以用这个片语了，我可以说 I had a crush on him for a few months， 我只有迷恋他短短几个月这样子。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单词吧。
Sacrifice. Sharon has made many sacrifices in her effort to become a professional dancer. Warrior. As he prepared for battle, the young warrior prayed that he would survive the conflict. Grief. Mrs. Hubbard's heart is heavy with grief over the death of her cat. Occasional. In spite of his busy schedule, Dr. Tate finds occasional moments when he can have a bit of fun. Flip. With a skillful movement, the cook flipped the pancake in the air and caught it back in the pan. Memorable. Our family vacation to the mountains was filled with memorable adventures.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here is our discussion starter for today. Which volcano myth discussed in the article did you find most moving and why?
I personally thought that the legend about Hephaestus was the most moving one, given that he was shunned or thrown away by his mother, Hera, because of his ugly looks, and he had to work deep in the belly of the volcano. And I like the idea that when the volcano erupts, it's a sign that Hephaestus is working on making a piece of beautiful jewelry and powerful weapons.
Okay, well, for me, the myth about Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl was the one I found most moving. since I have traveled to Mexico before and I actually was able to look at both of these mountains, but I did not know the legend of these mountains or volcanoes at the time I was looking at them, but now I know and therefore I find them most moving.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.